Ms. Turner?
Let the record reflect that Mr. Mercado is leaving the hearing room while the panel is deliberating.
Yes, say what y'all about to say.
Take your seat, sir. I have concerns that we're looking at a third weapons conviction, that he has been inappropriate in his relationships to the point that protective orders have been taken out against him, and that we now have accumulated 2 victims. He blames the domestic violence on his drug use, but we read the 2021 police report where he punched his girlfriend in the eye because she wouldn't give him money.
It's a lie.
He has done no treatment.
And there is much more to come where that came from, but there you might recognize the man in the wheelchair, and that's because we did his parole hearing just recently, and I was disgusted by it. I think you probably were as well. It was a man who passed an STD to his biological 5-year-old daughter, and the parole board did something that just blew, I think, all of our mind. Now, this man who we just saw, he comes after this man in the wheelchair. And the reason that I bring this up and left it in here as part of the intro is that there are words that he says at the end of the parole hearing that I think I actually agree with him about. I actually think that he has a point. Now we're about to watch the parole hearing of
Mr. Mercado, you can have a seat, okay? If you need them to bring that chair back and ask the officer, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
this habitual offender, and I'll unpack it with what details we have at the end. But if you have not yet seen the parole hearing of the man in the wheelchair, I would say check it out first. I'll leave a link to it in the description below.
Mr. Mercado,
Yes.
we're about to begin, okay?
Okay.
Good morning, my name is Parole Officer Smelly. Today is Monday, December 30th, 2024, and this is the hearing of the Connecticut Board of Pardons and Parole. Following board members are present this morning and by stating their names on the record, they have reviewed all statutorily and required documents and available pertinent information in preparation of this hearing.
Good morning, Joy Chance.
Good morning, Robert Sazowskis.
Nancy Turner.
Raudell Mercado.
Sir, please state your full name and your inmate number for me.
Raudell Mercado. Inmate number 400-861.
This hearing is being conducted in consideration of the parole application for Raudell Mercado, 400-861. He is serving a sentence of 10 years execution suspended after 39 months with 3 years probation to follow for criminal possession of a firearm, electric weapon, weapon in corrections institution, and violation of protective order, 2 counts of threatening second and breach of peace second. As of today, records reflect the parole eligibility date of October 11, 2024 at 50%. There's no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shown he has not completed any programs to date. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation system scores, the offender's overall score for the SRT falls within the very high range of risk for recidivism. Mr. Mercado, this is your opportunity to express to the board why you believe you should be granted parole. Sir.
I should be granted parole because first I was charged for a charge I never committed, and the whole time I was incarcerated for that crime, and I could have been out on bail. And I was obviously it was thrown out, but I got sentenced on my 30th month being incarcerated on a 50% crime, which I did commit. And I've been writing for programs. There's a wait list. So like I couldn't really complete anything that was required for me to complete, and also to better myself. I feel if I ain't released, I would like to go to a halfway house first of all, so I couldn't be able to do programs and get a job and do things.
Mr. Ricardo,
Yes.
we're going to talk about your release plan. The question that was posed to you is, why do you believe you deserve parole?
Well, I served the time necessary for my crime.
And that's it?
And I'm not thinking the same as I was like 30 months ago. So I feel I deserve a chance. This is the first time me ever even getting an opportunity to go for parole. So I feel like I deserve a chance.
Okay. All right. So we appreciate your comments, and we are going to take turns to ask you questions. And then once the three of us are done with our questions, we will deliberate on the record and we will let you know our decision. Okay? And I'm going to ask Mr. Szauskas to begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So I read through all the documents related to your case, and there was an incident with a shotgun that was later located. Do you recall that?
Yes.
So at that time, it appeared that you were a convicted felon from possessing firearms. Why were you possessing a shotgun?
The safety measures, I don't know. Like I said, I wasn't thinking clearly, but I felt the need to have it in the house. And at the time, I felt being in the closet, it ain't harming no one, it ain't doing anything. But I understand I'm a convicted felon, so I'm wrong for having that, being a convicted felon.
Did you know that you weren't supposed to have it before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as a convicted felon, you could never possess firearms again. You understand that? Even when you get out now, it's just anytime you have a firearm, you put yourself at risk of being back inside, whether it's in your own house, in the closet, anywhere in your car, anything like that. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And then there's some domestic violence crimes in here, and there's two separate ones involving two separate women where you were convicted of assaulting them. Can you just talk about that a little bit? Why do you have so much trouble in relationships with women?
Personally, me using drugs with them, it doesn't mix. You know, it started in an argument, and then we end up fighting. That's the lead cause of the domestic, when drugs being involved in the relationship, and consuming these drugs, and people not in the right state of mind when you're under the influence. So that's the main thing. I don't know what else to say with that. It's just mainly drugs was involved in that situation, in both situations actually.
Okay. Have you taken any programming? I know that they said you haven't done any programming. You haven't done anything to address your drug or alcohol situation at all? Have you gone to NAAA meetings, anything at all while you're in the facility?
I don't be hearing the NA meetings being called. They should be. I asked about them, but staff wasn't calling them. I was waiting for a program. They told me I'm on a wait list. I told them I got parole coming up. I need to meet the requirements to. There's a program on my IOAP.
Yeah.
So they just like, well, we can't help you with that. You're on a wait list. I started a program. I forgot what it's called, like on how to write resumes and help you with jobs.
Yeah.
But then they stopped calling me. Like they just stopped calling, and I asked the CO, hey, "Yo, I got a program." They like, "Well, they ain't calling," so they just stopped calling me. I went 3 times.
Well, any positive programs you could be involved with would be helpful to you. You know, you really could use something to provide addiction services, domestic violence. There's a couple different things that would probably be beneficial to you. You know, one of the things that might have hurt you a little bit with your programs is that you received 15 disciplinary reports. That's kind of a lot, you know. Why do you think you've had so much trouble with getting DRs?
I don't know. Just I have a hard time dealing with certain people, and at the time being in the county, all these new staff just bumping heads because they just be going back and forth with them. And then the reason I got the shank in the facility, they found out within the locker. So that drove me crazy because it's like I was in that cell for a month. They searched that cell constantly. There was nothing. And all of a sudden, they find a sharp object. And for me to get out of SAG, they gave me 3 days in SAG. They made me sign the ticket. They like, we let you go right now if you just sign it. Didn't want to sign it because I know it wasn't mine. But I took responsibility just to get out of SAG.
All right,
Well,
the last ticket was in July for, it sounds like some kind of a marijuana smoking pipe. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
And that was yours to take responsibility for that one?
Yes, I take responsibility for that.
And then there was a fight in April. Do you remember what happened?
I'll take responsibility for that.
Yeah. What happened with the fight? You remember?
Bullied me for 3 days. I got fed up and he got in my face. And we just, I had to create a safe space for myself. Because I felt he was going to assault me.
How do you think you've changed since you've been incarcerated? Since you came into the facility until now, you feel differently?
Yeah, I'm thinking different. I haven't received the DR since July 1st. That's new if you look at my record. Past
Yeah, that's
history.
good. That's good. You got to keep it up,
Yeah. I'm thinking different. I'm not thinking, like I was when I first came in. I don't have hard feelings towards no one, people even involved in my case. I don't have thoughts of them people anymore or anything like that. I'm focused on getting my life together, getting bettering my situation. Because I know out there is going to be harder than in here.
It is. Yeah.
So
you talking about that, you haven't done well on community supervised release, like probation, parole, that kind of thing in the past. You've had trouble. It looks like you had 5 chances or 6 chances and you completed it successfully 1 time in the past, parole or probation. You had 5 previous failures, violation of probations and so forth, technical violations of special parole, just all kinds of technical violations and different things. So, what's going to be different this time? You're going to have a lot of rules if you're on parole, probation. Have you thought about that? How you're going to be able to get through that without being violated and coming back?
yes, that's the reason I was gone. If y'all was to grant me parole, to ask to go to a halfway for a step down, so I can, kind of go slowly into the community and better myself. I'm focused on the bigger picture of bettering myself and not returning back because everybody feels, oh, you just gonna be back. I'm trying to prove to myself as well as everybody else, I'm not coming back. And then I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm getting older. I'm about to be 30 years old. You know, I'm not trying to do this over and over and over.
I hear you. You know, regardless, you're going to be getting out one way or another soon, right? You know that you're coming to the end. If you get parole or if you don't, you're gonna be getting out soon. So all these things that you're saying and you're talking about, and the fact you haven't had DR since July, you need to keep that going regardless of what's happening today. Because if you get out on parole or probation and you start doing these things, you're just going to come right back. Because, you know, you had a 10-year sentence, execution suspended. You understand that? So you're still going to owe that time if something happens. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not just, you know, you have a lot of risk by not completing parole or probation correctly. That means whatever drug testing they ask you to do, programs, all that stuff. In the past, you haven't done well with that. You know what I mean? You've had a lot of violations. And drugs and alcohol have been a problem. You know, you have a score of a 4 at DOC for drugs and alcohol. Do you realize that?
Yeah.
5 is the absolute highest. So 4 is very high. And then you haven't completed any treatment or anything like that. So do you have some plan that you're going to be able to stay sober? You already mentioned that, you know, the drugs and alcohol probably led to some of your criminal activity with relationships. What's your plan to stay sober so you can avoid those kind of situations?
Getting a job, staying busy. That's my main thing is I have to stay busy. And I'm going to try to go to NA meetings. There's a church on Fridays in downtown New Haven where I can go once a week, NA meetings.
It's a good idea.
And just surround myself around positive people. Like right now, even being here in the block, you know, there's a lot of negativity and all that. And my mind be out there on how I'm gonna move around out in the street because this is temporary. So I just gotta surround myself around positive people.
Okay, you have to keep thinking that way, all right? And just start making a plan. Because one way or another, you're getting out. It's time is coming. You're going to be out. And you don't, like you said, you don't want to come back, right? So there are things you can do to control that. I mean, it's up to you, you know? Where are you going to live and work when you get out? You said a halfway house, but what about after the halfway house? What would your plan be?
The halfway house. I have family also. I have a brother. I can go to his house. Mainly I'm trying to get my own place. For right now, family until I get my own place. Whether it's a room in an apartment or whatever. There's programs that help people get housing also. So
Okay. What about a job? What kind of work do you do?
I like to do like custodial work or, you know, like there's a car wash. My uncle is a supervisor and I'm gonna try to get in there for the time being. My plans is of opening my own business, power washing business. I like to clean and do stuff like that.
Okay. So I'm hearing two different things. You're going to start with something that you can just start with working with now, maybe a car wash or as a custodian, and have a long-term goal as opening your own business, doing something more.
Yes.
And those are good plans to have and start thinking through in your mind. The business a little bit more long-term is going to be a little bit work. You got to get yourself situated first, right?
Yes.
But there are jobs that, like you talked about, in this area of custodial, working at a car wash, things like that, you're going to be able to do if you really seek it out.
Yes.
All right, I'm going to pass this on to my colleagues. They're going to have questions for you, sir. I appreciate you talking to me today. Good luck, okay? Madam Chair.
So, Mr. Mercado, I am happy to know that since July of this year, you haven't received any DRs. Okay, so that's a step in the right direction. So I'm going to, and you sound like you have things in your head that you know you need to do. But for me, before you can do any of that, I'm just gonna run through something so that you can hear what I had to review in order to determine your suitability. So I'm going back to your adult record. In March of 2014, you were charged with a no pistol permit. And there are other charges. You were put on 3 years probation. Okay. Then in September of 2015, you violated that probation, okay, that no pistol permit. And the charge was weapon in a motor vehicle, right?
Yeah.
So then in September of 2015, you had an assault on personnel charge. So then in June of 2017, they were holding you on some charges, but then you were able to release out on bond and you were discharged to special parole. Because the previous probation didn't work, they now decided to put you on special parole. So you were discharged to special parole in June of 2017. And by July 20th, you had a technical violation of special parole. They released you back out on bond and reinstated your special parole August of 2017. And by September, you returned with new charges while you were on special parole. Okay? And so I'm going to skip on December 2018. You were held again on the special parole. They reinstated you in December of 2018, put you back out on special parole, and you violated special parole in March of 2019. That was like 3 months later, right?
Yes.
And then in May of 2020, they released you on special parole, and you finally completed special parole in June of 2020. And here you are today, criminal possession of firearm, okay? Another weapon charge. And when you were questioned by the parole officer, you said the gun was at your mother's house and it belonged to your ex-girlfriend.
Yeah. Because I didn't want my mother to get charged because my ex ain't gonna take the blame, but I'm taking responsibility for it all. When it come to court, it's a whole different ball game when you're looking at trial. But
you said you had the gun for safety measures. That's what you said.
yes,
So, Mr. Mercado, I think you need to do a couple of programs before you can consider yourself suitable.
Can you let the DOC know that? I got no control of doing.
So you, as my colleague said, you have a drug score of 4, so you need an addiction services program. You probably need a domestic violence program, and you need a voices program. And in addition to all of that, you rate out very high. So you first have to address your substance abuse and your criminogenic needs, which has to do with the kinds of crimes that you have committed. You are not working. And before you go out in the community, you need to have a really good release plan and a relapse prevention plan. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am today. And I'm all set, so I'm gonna turn it over.
I have
to
no
Ms.
questions.
Okay. All right, so we have no further questions for you, Mr. Mercado. Okay, so we're going to deliberate now, and remember, you can't say anything. Mr. Stauskas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, Mr. Mercado is, rated at a very high risk to recidivate. And he has a drug score of 4, 5 being the highest, and he's not completed the addiction services program that's on his OAP. He received 15 disciplinary reports during his incarceration, including fighting and contraband, this year. I do hear some beginning stages of changes in his voice, and he has been able to remain disciplinary free since July, which is good, and I think he's heading in the right direction. But for today, he hasn't reached the level of adequate change for me to be comfortable with him being suitable for parole. So for today, it's a denial for me.
Okay. I agree with what you have said, and I've already stated why I don't feel he's suitable. Ms. Turner?
Let the record reflect that Mr. Mercado is leaving the hearing room while the panel is deliberating.
Guys, say what y'all about to say.
Take your seat, sir. I have concerns that we're looking at a third weapons conviction, that he has been inappropriate in his relationships to the point that protective orders have been taken out against him, and that we now have accumulated 2 victims. He blames the domestic violence on his drug use, but we read the 2021 police report where he punched his girlfriend in the eye because she wouldn't give him money.
It's a lie.
He has done no treatment out in the community that we have any information about. And I agree, he has not adequately prepared himself for early release. My deep concern is that he is end of sentence in April. And
And I don't understand
strong
on a
concern
50% charge.
he
Why
will.
not?
Mr. Mercado, you can't say anything. You can listen.
What are your eyes?
I have deep concern that by then he will be appropriate. But as my colleague pointed out, he's going to have over 5 years of this sentence hanging over his head while he attempts to complete 3 years of probation, something he has been resoundingly unsuccessful at in the past. So it is a deny for me. Criminal history, inadequate program participation and evidence of change, and poor institutional adjustment.
Those are the 4 that I have.
Okay, in the case of Raudell Mercado, inmate number 400861, there is a motion to deny discretionary parole.
Let these child molesters and everything go, right?
Criminal history.
Child.
Mr. Mercado, please let me finish. Inadequate institution program participation, no evidence of offender change, and poor institutional adjustment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Child molesters go though,
You're all
right?
set,
Y'all
Mr.
come
Mercado.
late.
We'll receive
Y'all
all this in
come
writing.
late.
Officer Smelly, he disconnected the hearing.
Okay, and I guess that's my cue. Officer Smelly. You know, I don't think I've really mentioned that, but can you imagine the trauma of growing up with that name, or dare I say, if she married into it? I mean, that's got to be like a deal breaker for me. I mean, it's just, you would think, just the everything stacked against you. It's just the way things are. Your last name's going to really be Smelly? Are you kidding me? How hard it must have been to go through life to go through school with that last name. How does that happen? I've been meaning to bring it up, but I digress. I got to tell you, he has a point. This voice insert, child molesters. Well, I'm going to save it and I'm going to play it at the end. I'm going to start to play it at the end as I do no parole for Tate for certain cases. And not to bring light to things, but he kind of, look, I wish that he had had a good parole hearing and then had done the outburst, because, man, he would have been a point worth for the ages. And it still is a point. Now, keep in mind, the man who came up before him, this guy.
Did you violate this child in retaliation for the controlling, unhealthy relationship you were in?
No.
Are you sitting here saying that the circulation of this STD that the child ended up contracting was not from you?
I feel that it came in a way when it did come from me. It came orally.
Okay. All right.
Because I had performed.
He would have known that he had just gotten paroled. Plus, he keeps seeing over and over and over again all these other people that had that in their jacket getting paroled. The parole board going out of their way to find ways to parole them, even when they have horrendous hearings. But it just goes to prove, and again, I'm not saying he should have gotten paroled. He did himself no favors. He deserved not to be paroled, but he has a point. The guy before him didn't deserve to get paroled. The guy before him gave his 5-year-old biological daughter an STD, shows up to his parole hearing denying that any of it is true, had jacket full of write-ups, and they granted parole. So, it just goes to show they don't view the sanctity of a child. They don't care at all. And when it comes to like weapons offenses and those type of things, they care more. They care more about habitual and as they should. It's the parole board. So it's weird that I'm trying to bring it, but there is still some type of context that I want to share. And I mean, wow, the guy is. If you heard how what's her name, Miss Chance, I almost called her Miss Jackson, Miss Chance laid out how many chances they kept giving him, and Sir Richard has here in the documents, and he also, by the way, has like lawsuits against the DOC in his jacket, not on his jacket, but like that's what Richard was able to find. It just won't go through them, but you kind of got that energy. So you have in 2015 possession, March 20th, 2015, illegal possession of a weapon in a motor vehicle. You have 8-5, and that's where they sentenced him to special parole 3 years. But of course, he never served his time, because it was just 5 months later that he has assault count 1, sentenced 1 year jail. 2/24/2016, assault of an EMT person, sentenced 15 months in jail. Then you finally have the most recent offense, 7/24/2024, which is what he was talking about. So he was only took the conviction recently, I guess, but he's been locked up doing time for it, and he was fighting it, I guess. I don't, it's a little confusing, but that's kind of what he was making the argument, which was, hey, I have already served 50% of my 50% sentence. I shouldn't even be here. Let me out. And because he was basically waiting for the sentence to come down. They sentenced him and he thought he would just get out, but it doesn't work that way, buddy. He doesn't seem to really understand how things work. And I guess the DA played some kind of games with him. I don't really understand. I don't understand it. For some of you who do understand how they calculate time and that point that he was making, please let me know. But in a nutshell, it's my understanding that while he was waiting for the plea deal or for the sentencing, he had served enough time where if he had been sentenced on the initial date, he would have gotten out on 50%. But where I don't understand that isn't that what parole is for? So I know I'm not being very helpful right here, but hey, he has a point. He gave us a soundbite that we can use moving forward for many years to come. And with that, we can jump into the next hearing.
Tell us why you think you deserve parole.
Hey, if you're gonna give it to me, give it to me. If not, I could go back. I'm not here to debate with y'all or nothing. If you're gonna grant me parole, grant it to me. If you're not gonna grant it to me, I got 5 months to go. As simple as that.
Well, Mr. Edwards, you make it very difficult to even consider you for parole.
I'm just being straight up. If you're gonna grant it to me, grant it to me. If not, I'll go back and I'll finish my time.
Yeah, I kind of respect that approach. We're so accustomed to those trying to manipulate the parole board. And he's just laying down the facts. I mean, he's OG, he's been through it, and he's just laying down, he's putting his cards on the table and saying, are you going to grant me or will you not grant me? And look, from the records that Sir Richard was able to find, he does not have a dirty jacket. We only see one other offense in the past 10 years, which is threatening second degree. And then this current offense, which is, well, it's not good. It's driving while intoxicated, having a weapon by a convicted felon, and driving without insurance, although he claims to have just bought the car. But, I mean, neither here nor there. Now, Connecticut only shows records going back a decade, so it wouldn't surprise me if he has a long history. But he's not into kitties, and he doesn't have any essays in his jacket. So, we're so accustomed to them releasing the worst of the worst, constantly making excuses to release those who are the most dangerous. And, anyways, let's see if they make an exception for him or if he just has to do his time. Let me know at the end how you feel about his approach with that.
Kenneth Ray Edwards, 65621.
Thank you. This hearing is being conducted for a parole application for Kenneth Edwards, 065621. He is serving a sentence of 6 years execution suspended 30 months for 3 years of probation for criminal possession of a pistol, illegal operation of a motor vehicle under the influence. As of today, record reflects a parole eligibility date of March 25th, 2024. There is no victim input in this case. There is an offender accountability plan for the offender. It has been reviewed and shows the offender to follow programs. Voices. Utilizing the statewide collaborative offender risk evaluation scores, the offender's overall score for recidivism falls in a very high range. This is your opportunity to express to the board why you should be granted parole.
I didn't understand you.
Tell us why you think you deserve parole.
Hey, if you're gonna give it to me, give it to me. If not, I could go back. I'm not here to debate with y'all or nothing. If you're gonna grant me parole, grant it to me. If you're not gonna grant it to me, I got 5 months to go. As simple as that.
Well, Mr. Edwards, you make it very difficult to even consider you for parole.
I'm just being straight up. If you're gonna grant it to me, grant it to me. If not, I'll go back and I'll finish my time.
Okay. Well, why did you not want to cooperate with the parole officer?
I'm cooperating. I got caught with a gun. I'm guilty of that. Okay. I'm serving my time for that. I never said I didn't have it. I never said I didn't do it. If you're going to grant me parole, grant me parole. The reason I carry the gun, you want to know? Because I've been shot up 4 times. The reason I carry it is for my protection. That's why I carried it. I wasn't out there in the street looking for trouble or bothering nobody. I had it for my protection.
Well, you were driving a car intoxicated.
And I just had bought the car. I just had bought the car. I didn't get a chance to register. I lost the car because I got caught with a gun in it. That was a loss on me. I don't cry about nothing. If I did something, I earn up to it.
Well, you do own up to it. I do appreciate that. And I did notice that you took responsibility. My response, my statement was, you were carrying a firearm, driving a car intoxicated.
I was on my way home.
You were driving
I just had bought the car. I just had bought the car. I didn't get a chance to register anything. I lost the car.
Did you have the paperwork to support your having just purchased the car?
Yes.
What, did you
No,
show
it
it to
was
the
at my
officer?
house. It was at my
Okay, well
house.
then you can't drive a car without the paperwork
I
inside,
re-
because
I
anytime you
realize that.
purchase a car, okay.
I
Well,
realized that.
Yeah,
I
and Mr.
realized
Edwards,
that.
you are prohibited from having a firearm. I understand you wanted it for your protection, and you were driving the car while drinking. After you had been drinking.
I'm not denying it, yes.
Okay.
And I
So-
got caught. I got caught. And I'm
So
in
we-
here. And I'm
Yes.
paying for it. I'm not asking
Yeah.
nobody to do me no favor, do nothing for me. I am willing to do whatever I'm supposed to do. If I have to do all my time, I do all my time. If you ever want to bring me parole, don't bring it to me. I'm not gonna cry about it.
So, Mr.
I'm gonna
Edwards,
do what I
Mr.
gotta do.
Edwards, Mr. Edwards,
Yes.
discretionary parole is something that's earned. And the way this happens, right, is we come into a hearing and we ask questions to see if any kind of change has happened in you, that you might go back out into the community and not commit the same offenses. That's why we're here. It's not like we're going to see what we give you for Christmas. It's we just want to ask some questions. And that's what the parole officer was also getting at, to see if you're a risk in the community. That's what it was about. So it's not either give it to me or
I don't
don't.
consider myself a risk in the community. I'm gonna go back out. Either way, I'm gonna go back out and I'm gonna be the same person I was. I'm gonna live my life the way I was living it. I wasn't out there causing hectic, commotions or anything against nobody. The only person I hurt was me by driving a car with unregistered car and carrying a gun. That ain't hurt no one but me.
Well, you can't, are you telling us that you're gonna go back out in the community and just carry another firearm for
Yeah, I
protection?
didn't say that. I didn't say that. I said I'm
Well, that's
going
what I'm
back out and
asking
live
you.
my life accordingly. I'm 67 years old.
Yes,
What I
you
look
are.
like going back out in the street again, carrying another gun. I'm retired now. I'm going back out and live my life accordingly and enjoy the rest of my life. That's what I'm planning on doing.
Do you think you need help for your alcohol use?
No,
No?
no.
Right, I have no other questions, Mr. Chair.
We're going to bury
No
anything.
questions, nope.
No.
Go ahead.
Mr. Edwards makes it very difficult
Yes.
to consider him for discretionary parole. You know, the alcohol use is an issue, and he doesn't seem to understand that drinking and driving is a crime in itself. Whether or not the car was registered or belonged to him or bought, and carrying a firearm is a crime, and he doesn't seem to have an
And I'm
understanding
paid
of.
for it. And I'm paid for it.
He scores very high for risk to recidivate at the age of 67. So I do not have him voted to discretionary parole today.
Okay,
He hasn't
let me
given
go.
us any.
Okay, let me go. I'll go do my last 5 months.
Hang on. What criminal history?
It's criminal history,
Inadequate evidence, offender change?
and he doesn't have a relapse prevention plan, like he's
And
very.
then institutional program participation.
Okay. So regarding Kenneth Edwards, 065621, move to deny parole based upon criminal history, inadequate evidence of offender change, and inadequate institutional program participation. Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. Mr. Edwards, we weren't
I've
able to
been
give you.
denied. Thank you. Y'all have a nice day.
All right. We
Thank
hope
you.
you have a good New Year.
Okay, bye. Bye.
05661.
I told you what I was going to do. No. If y'all go crazy, you're not doing it. You're wasting time.
Tell you, I kind of respect his approach. We're so accustomed to seeing every type of parole hearing, the whining and the faking and the this and the that. But this man, he's been through so much in his life, and he just didn't want to do the dance, and he wanted to do his time. Now, he could have been more respectful. He could have been nicer, but he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to mess with it, and who knows exactly why. I'm not going to say that, hey, man, this is a good approach. I would have liked to have seen him get paroled and having spent New Year. This was New Year's Eve. He could have, but at least he's not BSing. And we're so sick and tired of just seeing so much straight up BSing that this kind of straightforwardness was refreshing for me. I rather appreciated it and even found myself rooting for him, especially when it comes to this just wacky parole board. You got to know, on today's docket, what we saw them do, it disgusts me. The people that they were granting and going out of their way to find loopholes to grant them was disturbing. But I do, again, I don't know what they could have done in this case. Their hands were tied, but we have seen them release the worst of the worst, the complete slime balls, even when the interviews have been horrible, because they'll make up some excuse of how it could be better for them. In this case, the only thing that we see on his record at September 25, 2020, a threatening second degree, where he was given 1 year jail but suspended and 1 year probation. And then he has these charges which show up on 12/16/2023. So he's arrested. He's given, it's for driving under the influence, operating a vehicle without, I guess, insurance, and the criminal possession of the pistol. And he's going to end up serving, I think, 1.5 years on what was a 6-year sentence, but suspended after 30 months. So, and he didn't want to play the game. Now, the reason we don't see anything else on his record is Connecticut only dates back 10 years. But if you think about that, it means that the only 2 charges that he has over the past decade are the threatening second degree and then this current offense. So I don't know, maybe, if you were shot 3 times and you grew up in that lifestyle, you'd also drive with the firearm. I just respected that he did not play any games. And I kind of have to respect that old school mentality. I really do. And my little 4-year-old just brought us something. All right. Well, I think on that note, I'll let you go. You let me know what you thought. And there you go.
Tell us why you think you deserve parole.
Hey, if you're gonna give it to me, give it to me. If not, I could go back. I'm not here to debate with y'all or nothing. If you're gonna grant me parole, grant it to me. If you're not gonna grant it to me, I got 5 months to go. As simple as that.
Well, Mr. Edwards, you make it very difficult to even consider you for parole.
I'm just being straight up. If you're gonna grant it to me, grant it to me. If not, I'll go back and I'll finish my time.
To deny discretionary parole.
Let these child molesters and everything go, right?
Criminal history.
Child.
Mr. Mercado, please let me finish. Inadequate institution program participation, no evidence of offender change, and poor institutional adjustment.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Child molesters go, though,
They're all
right?
set,
Y'all
Mr.
come
Mercado.
late.
We'll receive all
Y'all
this in
come
writing.
late.
Officer Smelly, he disconnected the hearing.